Usually, we treat a country's economy like a sports car, right? Like, if the needle isn't pinned in the red, accelerating as fast as humanly possible, we just assume the engine is completely shot.
Right, yeah.
But look at the notes you shared with us on Japan for today's deep dive, and suddenly, well, that speedometer doesn't really tell the whole story. So today, our mission is to unpack why the global narrative of Japan's economic collapse might actually be, completely misreading the data.
Yeah, because the narrative of the lost 30 years is, it's so baked into how we talk about macroeconomics that it's almost taken as gospel.
Oh, totally.
It traces back to the 1990s when Japan had this massive real estate and stock market bubble burst. The banking sector took a huge hit, and wages essentially just froze for decades.
And you couple that frozen wage growth with their demographic crisis,
Right.
right? So a rapidly aging population and a birth rate dropping through the floor.
Yeah.
So you have this physically shrinking workforce trying to dig out of a massive hole. Plus, the notes highlight chronic deflation, which, deflation always sounds good initially to you as a consumer.
Sure, yeah.
It's like waiting for a massive holiday sale. If you know an item will be cheaper next month, you delay spending.
Right. But structurally, it's more like corporate quicksand.
Corporate quicksand, I like that.
Well, in a deflationary spiral, asset prices drop. And that forces companies to hoard these massive cash reserves just to survive the balance sheet damage.
Right.
They stop reinvesting in research, and they halt wage increases altogether.
Which basically just starves the broader economy of reinvestment. I mean, if companies hoard cash and individuals hold off on major purchases because their money will literally buy more next year, the entire velocity of money just grinds to a halt.
Exactly. And the traditional macroeconomic view is that a frozen cycle like that, combined with fewer working-age people paying taxes, leads to inevitable systemic failure.
Wait, but that's exactly where I get stuck. If fewer people are working and businesses are trapped in this corporate quicksand, how does the government not just go completely bankrupt trying to support the elderly?
Right. It seems contradictory.
By all traditional metrics, we should be seeing soup lines and crumbling infrastructure. But if you step off a train in Tokyo today, you see the exact opposite.
You do.
Gleaming high-speed rail, spotless streets, massive industrial output. Where is the disconnect between the math and reality here?
So the disconnect is really in what metric we choose to focus on.
Mm-hmm.
We tend to fixate on total GDP. Because Japan's population is shrinking, sure, their overall GDP looks stagnant.
Right.
But if you look at GDP per capita, the actual wealth distributed per person, it has continued to rise. They're fundamentally richer on an individual basis.
Oh, wow. So the pie might not be getting much bigger, but there are fewer people at the table. Everyone's slice is actually growing.
Exactly. And they've also engineered how they bake that pie, so to speak.
Right.
To offset the shrinking workforce, they didn't just push people to work harder. They leaned heavily into industrial automation.
Right. The notes mention they are a world leader in robotics.
Yeah, robotics, precision manufacturing, they basically replaced missing human labor with highly efficient capital.
But it's not just domestic manufacturing, though, right? Looking at the data, they have massive national savings and are one of the biggest global investors.
Right. They transition their wealth generation. Instead of just relying on exporting physical goods from their own shores, they move to generating massive returns from overseas investments.
Wait, really?
Yeah, they own significant chunks of foreign debt, foreign real estate, global equities. And the returns from those investments flow right back into the Japanese economy.
Huh.
That's how they maintain that incredibly high standard of living.
So they didn't fail at the game of aggressive expansion. They just realized they needed to play a different game entirely.
Precisely.
They moved from a fast-growing, developing economy to a mature, stable one, prioritizing safety, immense wealth per capita, and stability over the risky, endless acceleration we see in places like the US or China.
It completely challenges the assumption that an economy must grow exponentially forever just to survive. Japan proves you can have a shrinking population and flat overall GDP, yet still maintain global industrial dominance and a very wealthy citizenry.
Which brings us right back to that sports car. Maybe the goal of an economy isn't always to redline the engine until it blows.
Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes it's about settling into a sustainable cruising speed. So we'll leave you with this lingering thought to explore on your own. If a nation can maintain immense wealth, world-class infrastructure, and high living standards without explosive growth, should the rest of the world rethink using endless expansion as the only valid measure of economic success?